Good evening and welcome to the Dark Ozarks.
And thank you for joining us on Dark Ozarks YouTube Live, our short intro. And we do invite you to like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, and do all the things that one does on social media. And we've got some fun topics and a full Halloween season calendar in front of us.
Yes, and so it's a good time for us to be able to talk at length about ghosts and spooky things. So.
Well, of course, for us, it's a good time. Any time is a good time.
True.
But especially October. I do believe October is my favorite month of the year, with my favorite holiday of the year, which of course is Halloween. But got some neat stuff coming up. Our biggest immediate event is the Haunted Hollister Walking Tour this Friday, October 7th, in downtown Hollister, Missouri.
Yes, 7:30. Lots of things going on. Art Walk will be going on as well, but
Yes.
We're going to tour the haunted and very beautiful the Old English Inn with all the ghost stories and paranormal activity. We're going to have storytelling, tour of downtown with some of the neat history, and some of the folk ballad traditions in the Ozarks. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Lots and lots of fun. This is not the biggest event that we've hosted this year, but it's close.
Yeah, it's getting there. There are tickets. There are a few tickets left. ParanormalScienceLab.com. Get your ticket if you intend to come. Then
Yes.
A week from Saturday, we will be in Joplin for Dark Ozarks October Country at the VFW. Yes. And it's going to be a great day. We have some great panelists that we've worked with before, and covering all the different topics that come under our umbrella here at the Dark Ozarks. And there's going to be merchandise to sell, etc., plus food and refreshments.
Emphasis on food and refreshments, but also just talking about the ghosts in both of these locations, downtown Hollister, Ye Old English Inn, I suspect Turkey Creek Brewery, and the VFW Hall in Joplin. These are all locations with documented paranormal activity.
That's very, very true. Alex and I were reviewing some video caught on security camera at the VFW just the other day. So
interesting. Excited to see that. Excited to get back there. It is a neat environment and fantastic host. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. And then the flashlight tour in Joplin immediately
on the 20th. And again, we'll be working with the Joplin Downtown Alliance that night, and they'll be putting on Art Walk, and we'll be touring downtown, talking about history and ghost stories that come out of it. And it's always a great event, and a lot of things to learn that most people will say they learned something they didn't know when they're there. So that's always fun. And then the 29th, we are in Newtonia.
Oh, so excited to get back to Newtonia and the Civil War era Ritchie Mansion, as well as the Civil War Cemetery. Fantastic event. Excited to be returning to that space. And there's also going to be food.
There is going to be food. Yes, apparently I've got a meeting coming up that I'm going to find out exactly what all's going on. We don't even know everything they're planning for us yet. So that's going to be great. And then on November 19th, we actually have two events. The first in the afternoon, and we should say October Country is sponsored by Always Buying Books in Joplin. Yes. They will have hard to find and rare books on the paranormal, supernatural, and related topics there for sale. So come on out. And on the 19th of November, we'll be doing a book signing there.
Yes, we will. I'm very excited about that. You have a number of fantastic titles. I have a fiction piece called Plague Child's Doctor that we will be talking about in depth later. And then, then that night we'll be at the Web City Library.
Yes, for tour and investigation. And people often say library for ghost hunt, but it has been haunted since basically it opened, and with full body apparitions, poltergeist activity, all kinds of things that go on. And at all of the events, proceeds support the location or the group that we're working with. So
Yes.
it's a fantastic way to have fun and help your community out.
It really is. And looking forward to meeting many of you all in person. And just, it is a neat, all of these are neat on the ground experiences.
Yeah.
And on this Friday, you and I will be dressed in period clothing.
Yes, we will. It's going to be fun.
I just laundered a portion of my period clothing to have it ready. So I will
be assembling mine tomorrow.
Oh, it's fun stuff, and lots of great history. So for tonight, we've got some neat stuff. And of course, if you're new to the channel, we do a short YouTube live, and then we go and do a long format Facebook live. We do invite you to follow us on Facebook at Dark Ozarks over there. We'll be over there shortly. And then all the videos, this short and then the long format, are all saved and uploaded here on the YouTube channel. So we do invite you to browse through the archives and see what you might find to be interesting. We also invite you to message us and let us know research topics or ideas or urban legends or things you might have heard or things you would like us to dig into. We're always happy to hear from you.
Yes, we are. And tonight's topic is ghosties and Crybaby Bridge.
So let's, just for our short here on YouTube, let's dig into the Crybaby Bridge trope. The thing that I find unique about this, and there's a almost a bookend legend, modern legend, that seems to parallel, not that they intersect, but seems to parallel, which is, and just to hit both of them, that there's a bridge in which a tragic death in some way or other involves a mother and child, or a mother tossing her baby into the river, or them going off the road and baby not surviving, etc., to create the Crybaby Bridge trope. Then there's the other one, and I'm trying to remember the official title of it, but park your car on a haunted road and turn everything off, and the ghost will push you, push the car down the road.
Yeah, Gravity Hill locations, basically.
And leave ghostly footprints. Yes, it's pushing down with one foot. Ghostly handprints on the back of your car, which of course is quite eerie, to say the least. There's a lot of psychology, to say the least, that's wrapped up in all of this. What I find interesting is, now that we here in the Branson area, to my knowledge, we don't have a Crybaby Bridge, but we do have a Gravity Road mythology built up. And a number of times when people find out what it is that I do in my spare time, which is paranormal investigations and Dark Ozarks, that they go, "Oh my goodness, have you investigated?" And then proceed to tell me the story, and are oblivious to the fact that this is one of hundreds of small town local stories, and they don't know. They think theirs is the only one.
And I think that happens in a lot of places. It's such a local legend that they think it is unique, and that's not to diminish it, because these local legends they're important for our community. But, you know, generally the gravity road or gravity hill phenomena, I think, really coincided with the rise of motor culture, of the car, because you wouldn't have this happening with horse and buggy because the horses didn't cooperate, and you can't put a horse in neutral.
This is true. That you do not have, to my knowledge, you have no legend of the wagon being pushed uphill with ghostly handprints on it while the horses are nickering in front.
That's true. Now there are separate legends about, hoofbeats on bridges and that kind of thing that comes
Which
from.
I love.
I do too.
Love those legends. And and of course, there's the trope of the lost miner.
Mm-hmm. Or farmer or soldier.
Mm-hmm. And typically lost in the mist, lost in the fog. The lost fiddler. In the cave. We're reminded of the story, the lost fiddler of Farallone Caverns, but that's not unique to the region. And I think so that people don't think that we're diminishing these stories. They are, first of all, as you noted, incredibly important to each region.
Yes, they really are. And I think the fact that the locals don't realize that it's not unique makes it even more special.
True. Now, for us, can be a little difficult to engage in an investigation when it's a legend and not a paranormal event.
Right. And basically an optical illusion, generally.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or potentially tricks of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You get yourself all hepped up for things. And now something that I find interesting, we'll just do a, like, me on the ground in Taney County.
Okay.
Point of comparison. We're getting ready to host a walking tour of Downing Street and a tour of the Old English Inn, which was, built at the turn of the century. A portion of it was built just after the Edwardian age closed. And very rarely has anyone come up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, have you done anything with the Old English Inn? It is so haunted." Now, the Old English Inn is haunted. It's extraordinarily haunted, and it really needs to be placed on the official map of haunted, paranormal tourism, essentially haunted locations to visit because of the amount of activity that takes place there. And yet in the area, I'm asked about a gravity road instead. But it's not called Gravity Road. It's described to me as the old gravel road north of town out by Sycamore Church.
Sycamore Church Road is what I usually hear it called.
Yeah, that a ghost will push your car uphill and leave handprints. And I'm like, okay, now have you had this happen? No, but I've heard about it. Do you know precisely where it's supposed to happen? No, but it's on Sycamore Church Road. Somewhere. And and I think
surveyor out there.
Yeah, well, and I want some of the surveyors that look like the three ghostly hitchhikers from the Haunted Mansion at Disney World.
Sounds good to me.
Now, I think it's interesting in terms of what works its way into regional popular culture and what doesn't, because we're sitting on, with one of the most haunted locations in the region. in the form of the Old English Inn, and almost nobody ever asked me about it. But we have basically an urban legend road that I get asked about multiple times.
Well, a la Zombie Road.
I know, and Albino Farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that I've said that, and we'll probably say it again on Facebook, probably somebody's going to come out of the woodwork who's had a real experience with real handprints on the back of their car on Sycamore Church Road. But
yeah. Well, I hope they do come out of the woodwork and with
exactly.
something to show it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we need to go document it in the proper location.
Exactly.
If you're just going to be picking from somewhere on the road, there's quite a bit of road to play with.
That would take an awful long time to try to figure out.
It would. It really would. Although if you actually started up the hill from Sycamore Church and left it in neutral, you'd be in for a hell of a ride, because that's a really deep hill. I hope your brakes work after you put it in neutral. It's a long way down there. Yeah. So maybe just to finish off for our short format here on YouTube Live, what are some of the origin points for Crybaby Bridge?
Well, Crybaby Bridge stories really kind of, sort of in the modern format, come out of car culture. It's always seems to be predominantly, the predominant version is that there's a car wreck, and so you have tragic death, and so you have this grieving mother following the cries of her lost child. But more traditionally, the stories would center around either someone being murdered or suicide. And but I think because and I think the car wreck motif is certainly big in America and not elsewhere. And I think that has to, and I do think that has a lot to do with the car culture of the 50s and 60s.
100%. And sadly, that all the really, really awesome cars that I want have a long history of killing people. So,
well, it is what it is.
I know. Oh, but I think that that's a really good point. You don't typically see that motif or that trope being manufactured elsewhere, and it does speak to otherwise unspoken or almost latent subconscious fear.
I agree. It's sort of the expression of the dark side of the car culture, but in a way that doesn't really detour, the culture.
And it's and I think that in many ways, America's love of the automobile is intertwined with love of wide open spaces, the sense of independence, the motif of the cowboy, the idea of personal freedom, and autonomy, individualism and autonomy, that is also coupled with risk. And it is a cautionary tale of sort of the downside of that freedom. Mm-hmm. And it is, yeah, obviously it's not, romantic when it's happening to you, but within the legend, the trope, the motif, there is a haunting quality to it, and there is a definitely a romance to the legends.
Yes. Well, and that's been reflected in a lot of music and movies, etc. So,
and something that I just, to posit perhaps at close, we have the in the Great American West motif, we have the lone rider, the lone gunslinger, the outlaw on the horse, those types of things. The child and mother motif is often separate.
It is, although there certainly are tales in that setting of the mother-child,
But something that, because driving a car is a little bit different than being a cowhand. True. In the sense that suddenly this, I think that there could be a transference, a psychological or subconscious transference in terms of culture, that now, the mother with child is really taking the same role as the lone cowboy, in terms of at risk or out alone on the road, etc. And there's I think something that we see consistently in terms of horrifying fiction or horrifying motif that captures the imagination is one in which an otherwise safe environment suddenly becomes unsafe. For example, the hospital or the home with a poltergeist, etc.
Right. And in this case, it's the car itself.
It's the car itself, the car that is giving you freedom, the car that is allowing you to transit about your daily life, the place of theoretical safety that you're just going to the grocery store, just going home from the doctor, or that sort of thing, suddenly becomes the killer.
Yes. And that's uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Gets under your skin, worms its way into your brain, pops up in your subconscious or into your consciousness as you sit down behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the 1950s, the simple reality that almost every American was driving.
Yeah. And it was and that was different. So
it was new yet ubiquitous. And so it was a shared experience.
Yes, very much so.
And then increasingly was the shared experience, if you yourself was not personally impacted by a car accident, you knew someone who was, or you heard stories immediately.
That's true. And another point is that wrecks of that time period tended to be much more gruesome and more deadly because of lack of safety features.
Yes.
That we kind of take for granted now.
A car accident that today you could probably walk away from wasn't necessarily the case in the old days. I grew up with some of those stories from my grandfather.
Yeah, same. I mean, even there's one that we'll talk about in the long format that just came to mind. Yeah. That might be a good place to stop.
I think so. Sounds good to me.
We thank everybody, and the in-depth discussion will be uploaded tomorrow night. So you're welcome to tune back in, and we'll be back next